Bio 14 Audio Lecture 6. Audio Lecture Notes, Plasma Membranes, Osmoregulation, and Digestion. Based on your lecture slides. Part 1. Plasma Membranes and Why They Matter. Alright, class. Today we are focusing on one of the most important structures in biology, the plasma membrane. Every cell in your body is surrounded by a plasma membrane. This membrane acts like a protective border between the inside of the cell and the outside environment. The plasma membrane is critical because it controls what enters and exits the cell, maintains homeostasis, allows communication between cells, helps cells recognize each other. Without plasma membranes, cells could not survive because materials would move uncontrollably in and out. The lecture describes all membranes in the body as phospholipid membranes. This includes plasma membrane, nuclear membrane, endoplasmic reticulum membranes. Phospholipids spontaneously organize into bilayers because of their chemical properties. Fluid mosaic model. The membrane follows the fluid mosaic model. Fluid means the membrane is flexible and constantly moving. Mosaic means many different proteins are embedded throughout the membrane. The membrane is made mainly of phospholipids. Phospholipids have hydrophilic heads that face water, hydrophobic tails that avoid water. This arrangement creates a stable barrier. Proteins float within this phospholipid bilayer and perform most membrane functions. Membrane proteins. Proteins in the membrane perform many jobs. Transport proteins move substances. Receptors receive signals. Enzymes speed reactions. Junction proteins connect cells. Aquaporins transport water. The lecture repeatedly emphasizes proteins do the work. Phospholipids mainly create the barrier structure. Cholesterol. Cholesterol helps stabilize the membrane. It prevents the membrane from becoming too rigid or too fluid. Think of cholesterol like a membrane stabilizer. Mini summary. The plasma membrane controls movement in and out of cells and maintains homeostasis. The membrane is made of a phospholipid bilayer with embedded proteins. Phospholipids create the barrier while proteins perform most functions like transport and signaling. Q&A review. What is the main function of the plasma membrane? Answer. It controls what enters and exits the cell. Why is the plasma membrane important? Answer. It maintains homeostasis and communication. What is the fluid mosaic model? Answer. A flexible phospholipid bilayer with embedded proteins. What does fluid mean in the fluid mosaic model? Answer. The membrane is flexible and constantly moving. What does mosaic mean in the fluid mosaic model? Answer. Different proteins are embedded throughout the membrane. What are phospholipids? Answer. Molecules that form the membrane bilayer. What part of a phospholipid is hydrophilic? Answer. The head. What part of a phospholipid is hydrophobic? Answer. The tails. What is the main function of phospholipids? Answer. Forming the membrane barrier. What is the main function of membrane proteins? Answer. Transport, signaling, enzymes, and communication. What do aquaporins transport? Answer. Water. What does cholesterol do in the membrane? Answer. Maintains membrane fluidity and stability. What are receptor proteins used for? Answer. Receiving signals. What are transport proteins used for? Answer. Moving substances across the membrane. Part 2. Transport across the plasma membrane. Cells constantly move molecules across membranes. There are two major transport categories: passive transport, active transport, passive transport. Passive transport does not require ATP. Molecules move down their concentration gradient, meaning from high concentration to low concentration. Examples include diffusion, osmosis. Small nonpolar molecules like oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuse directly through the membrane. Water usually moves through aquaporins. Large or charged molecules require transport proteins. Active transport. Active transport requires ATP. Molecules move against the concentration gradient. This means moving from low concentration to high concentration. Active transport uses transport proteins. The lecture also discusses how temperature affects active transport. Since transport proteins behave similarly to enzymes, warmer temperatures generally increase reaction rates. However, homeostasis keeps body temperature stable, so transport rates normally remain stable inside the body. Osmosis. Osmosis is the movement of water across a membrane. Water moves toward the area with higher solute concentration. Osmosis does not require ATP. Tonicity. Tonicity describes how solutions affect cell shape. Hypotonic, lower solute outside cell, water enters cell, cell swells. Hypertonic, higher solute outside cell, water leaves cell, cell shrinks. Isotonic, equal solute concentrations, stable cell size. Cells function best in isotonic environments. Mini summary. Passive transport moves molecules without ATP, while active transport requires ATP. Osmosis is the movement of water toward higher solute concentration. Tonicity affects whether cells swell, shrink, or remain stable. Q&A review. What are the two major transport categories? Answer: passive and active transport. Does passive transport require ATP? Answer: no. Does active transport require ATP? Answer: yes. What direction do molecules move in passive transport? Answer: down the concentration gradient. What direction do molecules move in active transport? Answer: against the concentration gradient. What is diffusion? Answer: movement of molecules from high concentration to low concentration. How do gases enter and leave cells? Answer: through diffusion across the membrane. How does water usually move across membranes? Answer: through aquaporins. What transport is used for large or charged molecules? Answer: transport proteins. What is osmosis? Answer: movement of water across a membrane. Does osmosis require ATP? Answer: no. What happens to cells in a hypotonic solution? Answer: they swell. What happens to cells in a hypertonic solution? Answer: they shrink. What happens to cells in an isotonic solution? Answer: they remain stable. Why are isotonic conditions important? Answer: cells function best when stable. Why does temperature affect active transport? Answer: transport proteins behave similarly to enzymes. Part 3: Osmoregulation and the urinary system. The urinary system is one of the body's biggest homeostasis systems. The four major functions of the urinary system are: 1. Excretion of metabolic wastes. 2. Water and salt balance. 3. Acid-base balance. 4. Hormone secretion. Organs of the urinary system. The major organs are kidneys, ureters, bladder, urethra. The kidneys are the control center. Everything else mainly transports or stores urine. Nephrons. Nephrons are microscopic structures inside the kidneys that filter blood. Four major nephron processes: filtration, reabsorption, secretion, excretion. Water movement during reabsorption depends heavily on osmosis. Waste removal. The urinary system removes wastes including urea, creatinine, uric acid. Urea forms from amino acid metabolism. Ammonia is highly toxic, so the liver converts it into urea. Too much waste buildup in blood is called uremia and can become life-threatening. Excess uric acid can form crystals in joints, causing gout. Water-salt balance. Salts influence osmosis. More salt in blood increases blood volume and blood pressure. The kidneys regulate sodium, potassium, calcium, bicarbonate. This helps maintain blood pressure and homeostasis. Acid-base balance. Healthy blood pH is around 7.4%. The kidneys help regulate pH by controlling hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. This is critical because enzymes require stable pH ranges. Hormones. The kidneys also produce hormones. Examples: renin, erythropoietin. EPO stimulates red blood cell production. ADH and aldosterone regulate water and salt balance. Mini summary. The urinary system maintains homeostasis by removing wastes, balancing water and salts, regulating pH, and producing hormones. The kidneys are the main control center, and nephrons perform filtration and reabsorption. Q&A review. What are the four major functions of the urinary system? Answer: waste removal, water-salt balance, acid-base balance, and hormone secretion. What are the organs of the urinary system? Answer: kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra. What is the main control center of the urinary system? Answer: the kidneys. What are nephrons? Answer: structures in the kidneys that filter blood. What are the four nephron processes? Answer: filtration, reabsorption, secretion, and excretion. What waste product forms from amino acid metabolism? Answer: urea. Why is ammonia dangerous? Answer: it is highly toxic. What is uremia? Answer, dangerous buildup of wastes in blood. What causes gout? Answer, uric acid crystal buildup. How do salts affect osmosis? Answer, more salts increase water movement and blood pressure. What blood pH is considered healthy? Answer, around 7.4. Why is blood pH important? Answer, enzymes require stable pH. What hormone stimulates red blood cell production? Answer, erythropoietin, or EPO. What hormones regulate water and salt balance? Answer, ADH and aldosterone. Part 4, gastrointestinal tract and digestion. The gastrointestinal tract breaks down food into smaller molecules that cells can use for energy. The main idea is polymers, monomers. Large molecules are hydrolyzed into smaller building blocks. Enzymes drive digestion. Organs of the GI tract. Digestive tract organs. Mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus. Accessory organs, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, digestion of biomolecules, carbohydrates, salivary amylase, pancreatic amylase, proteins, pepsin in stomach, trypsin and chymotrypsin in small intestine, lipids, bile salts emulsify fats, pancreatic lipase digests fats, nucleic acids, pancreatic nucleuses. Most digestion occurs in the small intestine. Most water absorption occurs in the large intestine. The pancreas produces most digestive enzymes. Stomach protection. The stomach contains strong acid with pH around 2. Pepsin digests proteins. So why doesn't the stomach digest itself? Protection mechanisms include mucus layer, bicarbonate, tight epithelial cells, rapid cell turnover. The mucus layer protects stomach cells from acid and enzymes. Microbiome. Gut bacteria help digest food, produce vitamins, prevent harmful bacteria. The microbiome is linked to immunity and even mental health through the gut-brain axis. Mini summary. The GI tract breaks food into monomers for cellular respiration. Digestion relies heavily on enzymes. Most digestion occurs in the small intestine, while the large intestine mainly absorbs water. The stomach protects itself with mucus and bicarbonate. Q&A review. What is the main function of the GI tract? Answer, breaking food into absorbable molecules. What are polymers? Answer, large molecules. What are monomers? Answer, small building blocks of molecules. What process breaks polymers into monomers? Answer, hydrolysis. What organ produces most digestive enzymes? Answer, the pancreas. Where does most digestion occur? Answer, the small intestine. Where does most water absorption occur? Answer, the large intestine. What enzyme begins carbohydrate digestion? Answer, salivary amylase. What enzyme digests proteins in the stomach? Answer, pepsin. What enzyme digests fats? Answer, lipase. What do bile salts do? Answer, emulsify fats. Why does the stomach need mucus? Answer, to protect itself from acid and enzymes. What is the pH of stomach acid? Answer, around 2. What is the microbiome? Answer, the collection of bacteria living in the gut. What are functions of gut bacteria? Answer, digestion, vitamin production, and protection from pathogens. How does the GI tract support cellular respiration? Answer, it provides nutrients broken down from food,